Hey everybody, happy Wednesday. Welcome to our stitching week, our second week of embroidery for our spring flower sew along. I have been having so much fun sewing this up with you guys. I'm loving seeing your stitching progress. It's been so much fun. And tonight we're going to conquer more stitches. We are going to go over the woven rose, which is a very fun stitch to learn. We are going to do satin stitching, and we are going to do the dreaded French knot. And I promise you guys can do this. It's super fun, super easy to do. I have a great trick to help you be successful at those French knots, and we're just going to dive in and stitch away the night. It's going to be super fun. So if you are new to the channel, my name is Bev McCullough of Flamingo Toes, and we are making up different versions of this cute Spring Flowers mini quilt. It's from my book, Make It Mini. There are 13 cute mini quilts in here, and they all have a little bit of embroidery in them. So we're doing a fun sew along with this quilt, and I am making up a fall version, but I've seen Christmas versions, and somebody is stitching with this exact fabric. I've just seen all kinds of versions, so it's been really fun to see your fabrics, and it's going to be great to see them all put together next week. So last week, we kicked off with a trunk show for Make It Mini, so I shared all the mini quilts in the book, and then the first week of the sewing, we put our blocks together. These are the little flower blocks, and these are mine. I have different fallish sort of blocks, and they're all ready to go together after this week. So these are really cute. And then last week we did the back stitch and the lazy daisy stitches, and so now we're ready to keep going and go further. So let me say hi to some people, see who's here. Let's see. We have Allison over on Facebook. She says, yes, you can stitch French knots. Yay, Allison. Solidarity, girl. Wendy's here. Michelle's here. Good evening from London. 1 a.m. Oh my goodness. Michelle, it's time to go to bed. Treva's here and Dawn's here. Yes, I switched out my mug, Dawn. I had the scary kitty last week, and this week I have this cute little ghosty mug. I found her at Walmart last week, and her mouth is like an upside down heart. You guys, it's so cute. And Laura's here. Let's see, over on YouTube we have JCB, and Allison's here. Ramona and Pam, Sari's here. Marcia, sorry, I don't know, I say your name wrong every time. I'm so sorry. I feel like a loser. Oh, let's see, Shirley and Dolores, Christine. Oh my goodness. Hi, Janice. She posted her funky bird on Instagram and haven't posted her mini quilt yet. It is peace. Yay, Janice, good job. That's exciting. All right. So it's super fun. I don't have too much to show you guys for catch up because we do have 3 stitches to go over this week, and I don't want to keep you guys here really late. So I don't have any like updates and stuff. If you want to check out Monday's videos, that's where I do more of that, like this is what's been going on in the blog. I shared a really cute cat quilt that I made using Amanda Niederhauser's quilt pattern, and I showed my finished, did I show you guys last week? I think I did. My finished Christmas time quilt. I did show you that. And just a quick reminder, if you are going to sew along with the Socialites sew along, that is, Fat Quarter Shop is hosting the Socialites 2 sew along. It's starting on Friday, and my block is the first block. So it's a really fun free sew along, and it's not a mystery, so you can see right now what all the blocks look like and what their suggested layout is. Of course, you can put it however you would like. And then the patterns are available in 3 sizes. So there's a 3, a 6, and a 9-inch block. You can choose to make just one. You can choose to make all 3. I am going to make up the 3-inch blocks and the 9-inch blocks. So I want to make the 9-inch block quilt, I think is like a 90 by 90, and so I want to make a quilt for one of my guest beds, so that will be that. And then I want to challenge myself with the 3-inch blocks because they're tricky and small, and I just think that'd be good for me and fun, but maybe also frustrating. I don't know. It'll be great, but that's what I'm gonna do. So, let's see. Lindy's here. Hey, Lindy. So, is anybody sewing along with that? You can check out all that info on the Fat Quarter Shop blog. It's called Socialites 2, SEW, and then you can also check my blog post on Friday, where I'll be showing off my block and all my tiny piecing. I wish I could show you guys. I'll show you next week what the blocks look like, but they're really cute. Really, really cute. I love the 3-inchers. Hey, Jane. And Jeanette says, can't wait to see my block. Thanks, Jeanette. Okay, you guys, every week we have a fun giveaway, which is my way of kind of saying thank you guys for tuning in, and I really appreciate you guys watching, and it's just my little thank you. And they're really easy to enter. All you have to do to enter is leave a comment, whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, whether you're watching live or later in the week. You guys could probably say that little spiel with me by now. But I want to make sure everybody has a chance to enter. All you have to do is leave a comment, and then I just draw the names randomly before the next video. So, you're entering this week for next week, and I'll announce the winner next week. And make sure you come back and check the following week if you watched the video and commented to see if you won. So last week our giveaway was a fun one. This is a Riley Blake partners with Crayola for some of their solid colors, not all of them, but for some of them. And so they're called Crayola Basics, and these are 10 vintage colors. They're fat quarters. So there's 10 fat quarters in here, and there's what the colors look like. They're really pretty colors. I love this little view here with the red and pinks and peach and yellow and green. And so there's 10 in here, and there's a free pattern info on the back. If you want to make up that free pattern, it's really cute. I don't know if you can see it. It's not focusing on you. But you'll have to take my word for it that it's really cute. And then I also have a box of my Aurifil thread. This is all floss, so it's Aurifloss. There are 10 spools in here, and the colors kind of go with Enchanted Meadow, which is what I designed this to go with. So 10 colors of floss, and they're on the wooden spools, just like this. And I love them because they're so easy to keep track of. You don't have to worry about your floss getting tangled. It's all tidy and so easy to take care of. Plus there's a ton of floss on there, so you get more. And so I have 10 colors in here for my Aurifil box. And then I have cute embroidery scissors for you guys, these little peachy pink embroidery scissors. And they're just really fun and so sweet. So get you guys, you could make up more quilts from Make It Mini with these fat quarters, or you could make an entire quilt and then stitch something, and you have your cute scissors and you're ready to go. So our winner was watching last week, I believe on YouTube, Jennifer Dahl. I don't know why it's not focusing. It's just kind of temperamental tonight, I guess. Jennifer Dahl, you're our winner. If you would send me an email, bev@flamingotoes.com, I will get this prize out to you in the mail this week. All right, you guys ready to see this week's prize? Let's see. Oh, Allison said for the socialites, so Dawn's going to try and sew, and Allison says that she's sewing 9-inch with a different setting. Ooh, that's exciting, Allison. I can't wait to see that. Hi, Teresa. And Sandra's here. She said she caught me live. Yay. Oh, and Jane has the fabric box. The colors are great. Aren't they great, Jane? I love them. They're so cute. Okay, you guys. I rated the prize box for you guys. And I thought, well, what's more fun? These are all little fabric projects. So most of them are, pretty small amounts. And I thought, well, maybe I'd give you some inspiration with some 5-inch stackers. So I rated the prize box, and I have 6 5-inch stackers for this week's prize. And they're all different. So let's check them out. This is Mackinac Island by Minnick and Simpson. This is an older collection. I don't remember when this came out, a couple years ago. This is a Moda fabric collection. And it's beautiful, like kind of patriotic-ish. So this would make a really pretty patriotic mini quilt, or just if you like red, white, and blues. So Mackinac Island. I have Tea with B from Catherine Linnaeus. Linnaeus, I think is how you say her last name. I don't remember. She is one of my favorite Riley Lake designers. I love her style. I find myself gravitating towards her fabrics a lot. So Tea with B, darling little, look at that colorway there. I think I bumped something on my camera so it won't focus. Anyway, it's beautiful. You can see the shades. Then I have Fleur from Sedef. This is also from a couple years ago. And look at those colors, you guys. Blues, purples, pinks, yellow. I mean, my goodness. Then I have, this is from Wyndham Fabrics. I think this is a few years old as well. It's called Wonder by Carrie Bloomston. I'm not as familiar with Wyndham prints, but look at these, you guys. How fun are these colors? Like grays, blues, aquas. There's big butterflies on this one. And then to get your Christmas projects going, this is from, I believe, last year. It's Christmas Delivery from Cartabella Paper Company. It's a Riley Blake one. Nope, it's got to be from more than a couple years ago because the colors aren't on the back. So this one is a cute Christmas collection, and there's vintage trucks. And I don't know what all else, but it looks like it's mainly reds and greens and whites. So that's a nice, like, basic Christmas collection. This is a Robert Kaufman. It's a charm square pack, and I don't know. Oh, it's Terrarium. It's Elizabeth Hartman. You guys all know her, right? And so, of course, this is Terrarium. So I don't know how hard that is to find these days. But there's purples, greens, you guys. There's deers, cute little deers. Oh my gosh, I love this. But I'm giving it to you. The greens, the florals, you know her. She's got such amazing style. Oh, the little deers come in brown too. I'm just going to sit here and look through fabrics. That's fine with you guys, right? Peaches, browns. I love these little lavendery flowers too. So cute, you guys. Okay, so that's this week's prize. So we have 6. Whoop, I wrinkled Mackinac Island. 6 cute charm packs. Hopefully you guys will be able to make lots, whoever wins will be able to make lots of mini quilts with these, or you can do an entire quilt. It doesn't matter to me what you do with them. So again, all you need to do is leave a comment to enter, and that will get you rocking and rolling, and I will announce the winner next week. Can you guys believe next week is our last week? So next week we're going to talk about how to trim up our embroidery. We are going to go over assembly. I'm going to talk about, I'm going to show you my finished version of my quilt, and we're going to talk about some tips about pressing embroidery and trimming and all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be a really fun week, and I'll have a really good giveaway that week too. So you guys need to tune in. Patty loves Christmas fabric. Me too, Patty. And Jeanette loves Elizabeth Hartman. She's so great, right? Her patterns are so great. I've made one of her patterns, and it was one of her earliest ones. It was the little fox. Do you guys remember that? It was just the fox faces, and then there was an applique for glasses, and I made it for my sister. And I love that quilt. Allison says it's like a jackpot prize. Yay! I'm so glad you guys like it. Oh, Michelle likes the fabulous charm packs. Yay! Okay, you guys ready to stitch? Shall we stitch? Okay, let's stitch. I'm going to move the camera over here, and we're going to just dive in. Ooh, sorry. That'll make you dizzy. Okay, and our cord's messed up here. All right. So, Ramona loves 5-inch stackers. Me too, Ramona. I always think of them like candy bars at the grocery store. You just can't resist them. You have to, well, I suppose you can resist them, but they're so fun. I love them. And you can really just do so many cute projects with them. Okay, so here is my little heart progress. I have done a little bit of satin stitching on here, but pretty much everything else is from last week's classes. So we did the back stitch here, and we did the back stitch. All of our little stems were back stitched. And then we also did lazy daisies, which are these little flowers here. Excuse me. These little flowers and here and down there. And then these are also lazy daisies, these little petals that are on our stems here. And I'm using a little bit different colors than I did in my sample because I am matching my fabrics, my fall fabrics that I'm using. So we're going to start with a satin stitch. And I have done a little bit of satin stitching on this already. So these are satin stitched, these little, not the stems, but these little leaves are satin stitched here and here. And since I was back stitching these, I went ahead and did the satin stitching so you could kind of see what those look like. But we're going to go ahead and do these leaves, and I'm going to start with these right here. And hopefully I can pay attention. If you see my hands wandering away, let me know and I will try and recenter myself on the camera. Okay, what I've done here is I have picked out what I want for my leaf colors. I picked this rust color. I have, it's this Aurifil. It's $23.95. And that's not the cost, that's the color. And so it's kind of a rust color. I've cut my length. It's 3 strands of floss, and we talk about last week how to separate out those strands of floss. And I have threaded it on my needle, and I talked about the needles last week as well. These are Lori Holt's embroidery needles, and they've got a nice, like, almost dipped end to them that's aqua, and it makes it easier to see, one, which end you're going to thread, but also it makes it really, I feel like it makes it a little bit easier to thread. And I like her embroidery needle because they're super sturdy, and I tend to bend my needles if I'm not careful. So what we're doing is I have knotted also. I've done just a small slip knot, and I'll cut that off and show you guys how I knot it just in case you haven't seen that. So I usually take it around my finger and I wrap it around once, and then I push with my finger, basically kind of twisting that floss, and then I pull it down to form that knot. Super simple and easy. And if I do have a long end like this, I will trim that off because it doesn't need to be there, that little extra bit of floss. So just a small little bit of a knot there at the end. Okay, so for our satin stitching, this is how I do my leaves. I am going to bring my needle up in the center from back to front at the bottom of my needle. And I like to, this is just my method, please, please, please practice and try to see what works best for you. You do not have to do it this way. But this is how my brain works, and this is how I find these are easiest to fill in. This is my disclaimer for the evening. So I'm going to take a small stitch right here into my leaf, and I'm just following the line of my leaf. And I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side. I'm just basically kind of making a little V here at the bottom of this leaf. So I'm pulling, you want to pull your threads so that they lay flat against the fabric, but not so tight that you find that the fabric is pulling. So now I basically made a V, and I want to round that out just a little bit. So I'm going to bring my needle up just above where that stitch on the left is, and I am going to put it back in, and I'm kind of pushing with my needle that first stitch over to round it out just a little bit so it's not quite such a sharp V. Can you see how that rounded out that leaf end a little bit? We're going to do the same thing on the other side. And we have a knot on the back. Oh, that one came out really easily. So I'm just going to kind of pull my needle over and pull. There we go. So now I've kind of softened and rounded those edges just a little bit. You guys are very quiet. Does anybody have? Feel free to chatter. I can read comments while we're stitching. Okay, so I brought my needle up again and I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to bring my needle back down. So what I'm kind of visualizing is a vein here in the center of my leaf that goes up about a third of the way. You can draw that on if you want to, if that makes it easier for you to start. But I'm just kind of visualizing what is the center of my leaf. So I'm going to take another stitch and I'm going to put my needle down in the center, but just above. I'm going to come in here real close. See if that'll focus. So I'm in the center and I'm putting my needle just above where that center line is. So I'm going to start filling, like, there we go. You can kind of see I'm filling that side in. And if you find that you've taken your stitch too far, you know, you haven't brought it in close enough, you can always go back in and add another stitch. But once you have these stitches in place, I think you'll find that it sort of fills in itself. So I'm doing the same thing on the other side, and it does look like those need to be filled in a little bit. So I'm just going to tuck my needle in between those stitches and just do two short little, almost filler stitches in there. The beauty of embroidery is it's very forgiving. It can be like, well, I have a little bit too much space there, so you just add a little bit more thread. But I'm kind of ending both of these stitches on either side. There, that looks better, don't you think? Michelle, good night. So that kind of filled in those holes. So I'm going to continue working my way up each side, back and forth of this, and I'm going to keep ending those stitches on each side in the center. And by doing that, I'm forming the vein of the leaf. So I'm just going back and forth. We're going to do that a few more times until we have that vein about a third of the way up that leaf. So just keep going. This is very relaxed. I hope this is relaxing. You can always put a movie on if you want. Sometimes we end up with a little loop that forms, and just gently pull that out. If that happens again, I'll show you how I pull those out. And so we're just kind of going back and forth here. Annette said she couldn't find the feed tonight, but she's here. Sorry about that, Annette. Was I wandering? Okay, so Janice says Satin Stitch is her problem child, hoping for great tips. Okay, well, you ask questions. All right, so now I've worked my way. I'm going to do one more on this side, and I've worked my way up so that my veins are about, the vein of that flower is about a third, it's almost a half now. So now what I'm going to do is do a stitch from the top of my leaf down, and this is going to be kind of my center guide, and then I'll work out from there. So now I know, okay, that's about as far as I want that vein to go, and now I'll just fill in on each side the rest of the leaf. So I've done that center piece, and I'm taking my thread and kind of just going at an angle. You can see how I'm like angling those stitches, doing shorter and shorter stitches to meet up with where I kind of left off on the vein. So these stitches sort of all end up in the same spot in that center. You can kind of tuck them in there if you need to, and then you just fill in until like that entire side is filled, and then you repeat the process on the other side. So you can see how that's looking. Allison says embroidery is so forgiving. It is very forgiving. So I'm going to go fill in my right side of my leaf, and I'm doing the exact same thing. I'm just taking angled stitches, sort of just deciding how far down I want them and following my pattern line to form the right side of the leaf. And your stitches will get just shorter and shorter as you go. And if it builds up and feels a little bulky there, I think that you'll find you're the only one that notices that. And that sort of gives the fabric, the stitch a lot of texture too, which I like. So there's your first cute little leaf. All right, Allison says, my way makes a huge difference than her practice ones. Such great tips. Oh, I'm so glad. Janice, do you backstitch around the shape or do stab stitches in the middle? When would I do that? So I know there's a lot of people that do backstitch around a piece, like they would backstitch around this leaf and then use that as an outline. I don't do that. I just use, like you saw, I just use my my pattern as a guide, and I stitch out that design from there. So that's the first little leaf. And you're going to do the exact same thing everywhere where you have those leaf effects. Sorry, that was a little close. So you're going to do all these leaves here, and then you're also going to do the leaves on these curly little flowers. And I'm going to get a little bit close here so you can see that these are the exact same methods, but you're just doing a lot less stitching. So on these little guys, I went here, my vein was about to here, and then the rest of it I filled in. So same with even these tiny little guys here. You can see just the end, just the beginning of a vein, and then the rest of the leaves fill in with those same angled stitches. Okay, so does everybody have any questions? Does anybody have any questions before we go on to French knots? I'm just going to do a little knot here on the back, and I'm just kind of running my needle through the stitching and then through that loop on the back. And where'd my scissors go? Oh, they were camouflaged on my mug rug. Whoop. That is a very magnetic needle minder. Okay, you guys ready to do French knots? It's going to be really fun. Okay, so I've done the same thing. I'm switching thread colors, and I'm using this kind of lavendery color as my French knots because I have a little bit of lavender-ish in my fabrics, and I want to pull that in with my French knots. So same method. I have 3 strands of floss, and I've got it threaded on my needle, and the knot is tied on the end. And everywhere these little polka dots are on the pattern is where we're going to do a French knot. So I'm going to start down here on the bottom. And you're going to bring your needle up from back to front, and you're going to pull it till the knot's on the back. Okay? So with a French knot, what you're basically doing is doing a wrap kind of twist with your needle and the thread, and then pulling it through so that you're basically forming a knot on the top of your surface. So we're going to wrap our needle 3 times with our embroidery floss, and you're going to put that needle back down right next to where it came up. Let me see if that will. There we go. So I put my needle in right next to where it came up, and then I am going to, so I've held my thumb on the thread, and I'm going to leave my thumb there while I pull the needle through. So you don't want it so wrapped so tight that you can't move that needle. You want that to slide through there. It's 3 strands of floss, Sandra. You want that to slide, so don't wrap your thread so tight that you can't easily pull your needle through. So use your right hand, or if you're left-handed, your left hand, and pull that needle through those strands of floss, and just pull gently, but don't let go of your thumb holding that thread down until you get to basically the very end. And then pull, and it forms a really cute little knot that is out of focus. Hang on. Maybe I'm too close. All right, so there's our little knot. And I'm going to do that again. In fact, I'm going to go up to the top so we can do several in a row. I do not like to travel with my floss on the back of embroidery floss, so I will On these that are down and around the fabrics, I will try and do, you know, I can do a couple if they have a stitching between them, but I don't like to have my threads wandering all over the back of my fabric, because especially if you're doing a light fabric and you put it on a light batting, you will see all of that. So I wouldn't, you know, I would knot my thread between like this one and this one. And these two, it's fine to do together, and probably even these two, but I wouldn't go like jumping all around without cutting your floss. I'm knotting it and starting over. So I'm gonna come up here on this little guy. So I'm bringing my floss all the way up. It helps to kind of wrap it with your hand. Hi Leslie, no rush. Jeanette, if you pull too tight, it won't necessarily come through. It might come through if you are pulling really hard on your needle, trying to get it to go through the fabric. That might go ahead and pull it through if you are pulling that tightly on it. You want to be as gentle as you can without having it be super loose. Janice, yes, you can absolutely wait until the end to do the knots, so you can travel a little bit. If you do them ahead of time, that's fine too, because you will cover up those traveling with your stitches. And by traveling, I just mean like going from one section to the other without knotting the thread. You can do it. The reason I like to do things like French knots and woven roses at the end is because they're looser stitches, and they're also very surfacey. So nothing's going to really pull that out or cause a problem with that. But if you are stitching something else and your needle hits a woven rose or a French knot, you can kind of catch it and pull it, and so that it doesn't like lay flat. So that's the main reason I do French knots and woven roses at the end. So we're going to wrap our needle again 3 times. And you can play with that number, but we're going for 3, and I'll explain why. So 3 times, and then I'm putting my, let's see if I can get a good angle here. I'm putting my needle in right next to where the floss comes out. And then I'm just going to hold that floss that is the end that I wrapped with my thumb. And you want your loops, there we go. You want your wrapping to be against the needle nice and tight, but not super tight. Does that make sense? Loose enough that you can get your needle through there, but not so loose that you can see space between the needle and the loops. Okay, so go ahead and pull your needle through. Remember to keep your thumb on there, and then pull, and then you have your pretty little knot. Jana says, or Jane, sorry, my eyes are gone by 7 o'clock or 7:30 at night. Jane says that she has a little trouble getting that dimple in the middle. Try holding your knot until the last minute that you let go of that, and I think that might help you. So it does feel like, for me, this is more of a two-handed stitch. So I like to work with it on a table or my lap or something like that, so that I can sort of set it down while I'm wrapping and holding, and then it just gives me a little bit more control. So now I am doing the next one. These little knots are great for doing with small flowers and fill and things like that, because you can put a whole bunch of them at once, and they add so much texture to your piece because they're those sweet little knots. So again, wrapping 3 times, putting my needle through. I'm making sure that I'm holding it with my thumb, and then pulling gently. You don't want to pull that so fast too, because you are forming a knot. And then there forms another one. So my biggest tip with these little guys is keep them don't try and do these at the speed of light, and also hold that thread. If you don't hold this thread down, then as you're pulling it with your needle, it tends to want to go in that hole with everything else. And so your knot slips around, and it isn't tight, and it's not a good sturdy knot. Allison said she just did 3 French knots. All right, woohoo is right. Okay, so this is the basic premise. And do you guys have French knot questions before I move on to woven roses? Anybody? I can go back to questions as well, but I want to catch you guys while I have the floss color going. So the reason I do 3 strands of floss is because I feel like they give me it gives me a nice medium knot. If you are working in a very small space, like if you're doing an embroidered necklace or something like that, you can drop your strands down to 2, and that will give you a little bit more of a tiny, delicate knot. Or if you want more of a crewel embroidery, I don't mean C-R-U-E-L, but C-R-E-W-E-L. So those have, thicker floss and more texture to them. So if you're wanting more of a look like that, then you can add and do more strands of floss, and that will give your knots, you'll have bigger knots because they will be, more threads, and they'll also have more texture. You can also do more or less wraps if you don't want to change out your floss. If you've got your floss sort of set up for other stitches, then just do 2 wraps or do 4 or 5 wraps, and that works too. So now we've got all those cute little knots on our little leafy thing. I don't know what this little flowery thing is. So Jeanette said she thinks she wasn't holding her thread tight. Okay, good. I'm glad that might work out for you. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and knot off this thread, and we're going to do woven roses, and you guys are going to love these. They are so fun. Gail said, so pretty, now she needs this book. Yay, Gail! Well, I have it in my shop if you would like it. Or you can find it at Amazon and Barnes & Noble and Fat Quarter Shop and lots of quilt shops. Okay, so now we're going to do woven roses, and I'm going to unthread this, and I'm going to do a yellow one. And we are going to, now this is the only stitch on this cute little design that we are not using 3 strands of floss. We are using 6. And the reason for that is because this little stitch takes a ton of floss. And so if you are only using 3 strands, then you are it's just going to take a lot longer to form the stitch. So I have cut a pretty long length of gold here, and I am going to thread my needle. And yes, I stick my thread in my mouth to do it. But it's my thread and it's my project. So now I've threaded my needle with 6 strands of floss, and I'm going to go ahead and knot the end. The fun thing about these is that they are stitched pretty much entirely on the surface of the project, and that's the good thing. They look very pretty. The bad side of that is that they are stitched entirely on the surface of the project. And what do I mean by that is it's a loose stitch and it's on the top of your fabric, so it can come undone easily. So that makes, you only want to use woven roses on projects that are not going to be laundered or have a lot of wear. Don't put woven roses on a quilt that's on your bed or that your kiddos sleep with or anything like that, because they will be gone and you will have basically little ratty bird's nests and you'll be very sad. But if you're doing something like a wall hanging, a table topper that you don't mind spot cleaning, a runner, anything like that, this is perfect. Of course, it's great if you're just doing like embroidery hoop art or things like that that's going to stay on a wall. I think you could do a pillow as well if it's like a decorative pillow, not a, you sleep on it every night sort of pillow. Okay, And there are two ways that these can be drawn out, the pattern. I have done these like a 5-spoke wheel. You can also just draw a big circle. You can see that pattern either way when you're doing embroidery, and I've used both methods. So if it's a big circle, you're going to want to go ahead and either hand draw in or just stitch out these 5 spokes, but I didn't draw the circles this time. I just went ahead and drew the spokes. So we're going to do, which one of these are we going to do? We're going to do, I'm going to do this big little guy here. And you're going to bring your needle up in the center of those 5 spokes, and you're just going to do 5, you're going to get a knot on the back of your thread. You're going to stitch out 5 straight stitches on those little spokes. And it doesn't matter if they all come from the center. You don't have to do that. You can wander around. You're going to cover everything up here, but you do want to keep them as evenly spoked as possible. And I'll explain why that is when we go. You don't want your spokes to have 2 that are really close together. So try and keep it, you know, as much like a star as you can as you do little spokes. Hey, Jennifer! We have the fabulous Jennifer Long of Be So Inspired here with us tonight, y'all. She loves to do embroidery too. Dolores asked, would all other embroidery hold up to wash other than roses? For the most part. I still would probably hand wash or delicate wash a piece that has embroidery, just because you have spent a long time doing all the stitches in that, and so you want to protect them as much as possible. Lazy daisies are a looser stitch. You're safest probably with satin stitches and back stitches. Those are your most secure stitches. So I would feel most confident about those, and then kind of try and stay away from your loose stitches. So if I was going to wash this piece, I would probably, I wouldn't do the woven roses. I would do like a satin stitch rose here. And for these little lazy daisy guys, I would go ahead and satin stitch out these tiny little woven roses. It takes a little bit more time, but when you're talking about such a tiny piece, it doesn't take that much more time. And it would just give your piece a little bit more stability. So, Mary Beth said, just curious, as she's never embroidered, are there certain guidelines for washing embroidered quilts? Does the floss catch in the wash? Other than worrying about your stitching coming undone, I don't know that your floss catches in the wash a whole lot, but again, I would probably keep it hand washed or delicate, or if you want to put it in like a laundry bag, like a lingerie bag type thing, that would protect it as well and keep it from catching on other things in the wash. So those would be my washing recommendations. I didn't know we were going to talk about laundry, but that's fine. Okay, so I have stitched my little 5 spokes. So now I bring my needle up in the center, like kind of between 2 spokes in the center. It doesn't matter what 2 spokes, you can just pick whatever you would like, and you're going to pull. When you have more thread, you tend to end up with knots, and that's what I've got here. So I'm just going to loosen this and see if, this is a doozy one too. Oh, there we go, came undone. So just kind of pull gently if you end up with a knot. But go ahead and pull all of your floss out. And now we're going to start weaving, because these are called woven roses for a reason. Okay, so I have brought my needle up here, my thread up here. So now I am going to go over this spoke and slide my needle underneath the spoke after it. It is not going through the fabric. You can see it shimming around there. It's under the floss only. And I'm going to pull my floss through there. Now I'm going to go over this next one and under the one after that. And I'm kind of pulling, but not pulling tight. You don't want these tight. These are loosey-goosey stitches. Oh, let's see. Dolores said there are pillowcases with embroidery. Yes, exactly. And it's fine. It holds up fine. So I've gone under this one. Now I'm going to go over, and I'm hitting about back at the same spot where we were, where we came up, but instead of going over again like I did here, I'm going to go under. So you're going to alternate your way around here, and every time you come to a spoke, you're basically going to do the opposite. So this last one, the previous time I went under, now I'm going over, and it's just basically over, under, over, under. I don't know if any of you guys were in like Bible camp, or I think they probably did them at regular camp, but they were like the God's eyes, where you took the popsicle stick and then you wrapped yarn around it. It's the exact same concept. So I'm just going to over, under, all the way around. And feel free to move your hoop around however it's easiest for you to hold. You're going to just continue wrapping this. Oh, Marie says she's a little late today because she's in freezing Fairbanks, Alaska. Marie, what are you doing in Alaska? My goodness, that sounds very cold. So I'm just continuing to wrap. You can see that I'm not pulling my needle. I'm pulling my floss so that it's laying against the spokes, but I'm not pulling it tight. And I'm just continuing to wrap around. If you're doing big ones of these, they can take a little bit of time to do, because the bigger the spokes, the more wrapping you have to do. But it's very, very satisfying watching these little spokes and watching this wheel form in the center. So you're going to wrap all the way to the end. And if you need to do something like I needed to pull the loose end of my floss up, grab it and do it with your hand. Don't pull on this any tighter than you have to, because if you do pull on it too tight, it's going to distort that flower. So you don't want to do that. You want to keep your stitches laying flat, but not super, super tight. If you're doing them really tight, then your woven rows will build up too high, and it'll be really, you won't get that lovely texture in it that you can get if your stitches are just a little bit looser. So I'm just kind of turning my hoop. I hope that's not making you too dizzy, but I'm turning my hoop. Oh, Marie said she came to hoping to see the Northern Lights. Wish her luck. Oh my goodness, Marie, that's so exciting. I really hope you get to see them. Dolores says she did not know that was supposed to be a rose. Oh wait, Dolores, did you take your comment away? It went away. I don't know if I lost it or if it went away. But yeah, it's just a little, well, and it can be any kind of flower, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be a rose. They look kind of like peonies to me too. Just a big showy flower with lots of like petals. But they're sometimes called wagon wheel flowers as well. So you'll hear a lot of the stitches have multiple names, and that's fine. You can kind of, it doesn't matter how it's stitched. So now I've gotten to the point where I don't see a whole lot of that next spoke that I'm going to, but I know approximately where it is, so I'm still going to guide my needle underneath there and do a little bit more, because I can still see some of the other spokes, and I want to basically make sure that when I'm done wrapping, I don't have any spokes showing at all. And then we're going to talk about ways to fluff our little woven roses once we get them all stitched up. So this is looking very cute. I'm just tucking my needle underneath there, and oh, Dolores says she didn't know it was a rose. She would have just outlined. Oh, the circle. Yes. Okay. Well, good. I'm glad that we're stitching it out then. And if you want to do it that, you can totally, that would look cute too. So I'm just kind of filling in. I think I went too far here. It's a very, very forgiving flower. And so I'm just feeling my way now through those, because I can't see any of the spokes, but I do want there to be lots of loose petals going around. So you can see now I've kind of built up my flower, and if you look at the side of it, it's got a good amount of texture, which is one of the reasons I love these roses. But it's also, you know, you can see why it would be loose, because all of the stitching is basically held in place by the by those spokes, right? So the only other thing, so now I've got these petals and it's cute, but I can still see these spokes are really defined, and that's fine if that's what you like. But I like my woven roses to have a little bit more of a loose look to them. So I often go through with my needle and kind of fluff them a little bit. So I'll take my needle and I gently poke it through the floss, and I just sort of loosen up those stitches a little bit so that it has more of a less even texture, if you know where I'm going with that. So I'm just kind of playing with this until I like the way it looks. I'm not going crazy. I'm not, you know, doing anything more than just sort of tucking with my needle and pulling and that sort of thing. And this is just my own personal taste. You can certainly leave them the way they are, but do you see how, could you see the difference with that? Like how it was looking kind of flat and you could see those spokes, but now it feels a little bit more loose and pretty. I don't know. Hopefully that was, it's not too small of a woven rose to see that on. So that is the basically all there is to that stitch. Once you're done, you can go ahead and put your needle down, you know, approximately where you would be slipping it under a spoke. And so you want to bring your needle down and then flip your embroidery over and go ahead and knot it through. And that's, I just knot it by passing it through a couple of the stitches a couple times and then looping it around my needle and then pulling. So you don't want to pull super tight on that knot because it is such a loose thing that it could, if you're pulling really tight on the knot, it could pull the front. And that's all there is to that. So that's our cute little woven rose. Okay, Teresa says she likes the fluffing. Okay, good. Oh, that's Susie in the Facebook group. Susie posted a really awesome photo of a ginormous flamingo in the Tampa airport. And by ginormous, I mean all you can see is like its neck and head coming through the roof and that it's cute feet. So I feel like I need to see that. So all these little 5 spokes here, there's 3 on this side and there's 3 over here, are the woven roses. And I would go ahead and stitch out your leaves before you do the woven roses. You can see as you're going around and around that little thing and your needle is weaving through, it would be easy to catch your other stitches. So I don't know, or it would be easy to catch these. So just be careful as you go. If you're doing the satin stitching, you know, and you have this little guy, in nature, the little woven rose would kind of overlay the leaves usually. So that's one of the other ways that I try to think of how I stitch things out. Like leaves are at the bottom, flowers are at the top. So if they overlap a little bit, I would want those leaves stitched first and then whatever flower it is. So that's the basic premise of how I kind of think those things through. So again, 3 woven roses and then all your satin stitches and then your French knots. So does anybody have any questions about anything? I am happy to answer any questions, but those are our 3 stitches for the night. And I'll happily hang out and stitch with you guys longer if you want to, but I know everybody's probably about ready for bed. So if nobody has any questions, I will head back to our main camera here. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I love showing off stitching and I love doing stitching projects. We're going to definitely do more stitching after we do this so long. We're going to do more over, I don't know when the next one will be, but we're definitely going to do more projects out of Make It Mini. So if you haven't picked up the book yet, I would love for you to pick it up and hopefully you'll find some fun projects. These are also small and relatively fast in the way of projects. So they would make great gifts if you're still looking for gift ideas to make for friends. Next week, we are going to have our last week. So we're going to talk about how to trim this down. I'm already going to have mine trimmed, but I will have tips for you guys on how to cut your embroidery, how to take this piece, which is 8 inches, and cut it down to the size that you need it. It's a very stressful thing. At least I find it stressful because I've spent, however long, a couple hours at least, stitching out a design, and I definitely don't want to trim it wrong so that when it's, pieced in there, it's off center. That makes for sadness. So we're going to have tips about that, and then also about pressing with embroidery, and then just overall assembly on the quilt. So I would love to see you guys next week for our finale, and we'll have a big giveaway. Don't forget to leave a comment on today's video for the 6 charm packs or 5-inch stackers, depending upon your fabric company. And I will see you next Wednesday. Don't forget to check out my socialites block on Friday, and then we'll also be doing the finale on Monday of the Daisy a Day quilt, which is behind me. And that one has been a really fun sew-along too. So if you're only on Wednesdays, come check us out on Mondays and see how that one's ending up as well. So I hope you guys have the great rest of your week, and I will see. I'm just going to make sure we don't have any. Anne says she missed most. And you'll be able to watch it live. You can go back and watch it live later. Hey, yes, and finishing, Teresa. We're going to go over all that. And so, and she asked if we will have more and more week for assembling the blocks. Yes. So next week, the blocks were the first week. So if you missed that, Teresa, go back and look for week 1. Next week is finishing only. So cutting, trimming, and then the whole put together. All right, everybody. Thanks so much. Have a really great night. I will see you guys next week. Bye.